Ha! Look at that. I was about to switch the scene to do stuff, and then I noticed, why is the camera so dark? And the reason for the camera being so dark is I haven't turned on the lights yet. that might be the reason. That might be a totally valid reason why everything looks so dark. Because, well, let there be light. Oh yeah, there's a lot of light. And now the white balance is completely off. I look like, oh, whoa. I look like I've been under the sun for a whole summer. Oh, that's cool. That's flattering. Let's keep it that way. That is the perfect white balance. Oh yeah. Oh boy. Well, let's leave it a bit more colorful like that. Alright, that works. That perfectly works. Okie dokie, let me pull down this wonderful Devcom suspense. Starting, breaking, and ending music, and my throat already tells me he wants to be lubricated. So I'm gonna be rebooting my speech center, and then I will be telling quite shortly what we're going to do. And once I've done that, you watch the intro, I lubricate my throat, and then everything's okay. I know you're not seeing me. Let's change this. Hello and a wonderful warm welcome to, what is it, episode, let me count, and I think it's 6 episode, I need more than one hand for this by now, episode 2 times 3, episode 6 of this ongoing series of Devcom tutorials, and we're currently right in the middle of talking about Unity, about how to do stuff in Unity. And the stuff we did last time was, let me see if I can show you. Let me see if I can I maximize this? I think it works. So you can see it down there. There you can see it. There you can in the little thingy. You can see what we did last time was we made the thing move. See, it moves away, it's super nice, and we talked about why we do not want it to be tied to the frame rate, why there is a delta time, and how this uncouples us from the frame rate, so our game doesn't run slower or faster on slower or faster frame rates, and all the shiny stuff. So yeah, this is what we did. Let me do this one more time, because it looks so sweet. Look how this thing moves, like butter. And this is what we did last time. If you've missed this, if you have no idea how to get to this point, just rewind, watch last time's session, and see how we did this. Nothing to be afraid of. It's actually all quite simple. So today, we're not making it that much more complicated. It's all still very, very simple. But this now it just moves. We give it one direction and it moves. Maybe we could do some code that while it moves, it changes the direction so it moves somewhere else. But it just moves on its own. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be making this move by the hands of us. Let's say we are the player. Well, in this case, we're both. We're the maker and we're the player. But we'll make this controllable by the player. So when the player hits certain keys on the keyboard, it moves to the left. And when he pushes another key, it moves to the right, or maybe up or down or whatever. And depending on how much time we have, we also start talking about prefabs. What are prefabs? Why are prefabs? How are prefabs? And how are the pre's fabbed? And yeah, we talk about all of these things, and then we're gonna spawn them. Like when we let's make our little thing that now the player can control. Let's give the player also the ability to shoot. Huh? I mean, what's a game without shooting? Well, barely a game. So let's make this game, this thing that the player can shoot. Well, it won't hit anything yet, because that's a topic for, I don't know, next time or the time after, which is collisions, which I think we should definitely cover and do, yes. So yeah, and to shoot this, there's 2 ways of doing it. One way that doesn't really make sense in this case, and the way of using a prefab and just instantiating an object that is our whatever we shoot, bullet, energy beam, whatever. Yeah, we're going to be talking about this. We're going to be making this, and in the end, we have something that the player can move around and shoot with. All right, so let me see if I find the right button to show you the lovely intro, and then let's get this show on the road. Have fun. Yes, just finished the lubrication of my throat. So now I can come back to you and start talking about all the things I just mentioned. So at first, I think I need to open my ID because everything's on a tight schedule today. So I'm a bit late and a bit unprepared, and not everything's open yet. But first of all, let me just take a quick note. This might be the wrong notepad. This looks very similar, but it's a different one, trust me. Because tutorials. Collision. Tutorials topics. Because we wanted to talk about collisions because this is all very, very fluid and very agile. Well, this is one of the buzzwords used a lot in the industry today, especially when talking about software development. This is very agile. So not all of the remaining topics for the remaining after today. It's I think 4 sessions we have left, and the last one is recap and Q&A and stuff. Not all of them are set in stone yet. And I think Unitiy, what the heck did I can't even. Yeah, I don't know. I know what I mean. Let's hide this before someone sees my horrible spelling. So yeah, I wasn't a spelling bee in school. So yeah, collision is one thing we're going to be doing, because if we start shooting with that thing, we'd eventually like to actually hit something. And I mean, we can do that. We can hit something, but then nothing happens, and that's kind of boring. So we don't go into too much detail about doing big explosions and stuff. We just make it disappear. Well, and maybe award the player some points, which would mean UI. Not sure if I want to dive into UI, but maybe we do at least a bit to show the points. Yeah, so that's something we're definitely going to be doing. We are going to be talking about collisions. So if we eventually can shoot, we can not only hit something, but whatever we just hit can disappear. But before we can actually start shooting stuff, we need to start moving stuff. So let me open back my old and trusted ID. Yeah, it's not that old. I could update it. There's a quite newer version. So yeah, I'm using Rider, by the way. You've maybe seen this already when you're here before. That is my coding tool, my coding Swiss knife of choice. And this is one bug I'm not sure if they ever going to be fixing. Once you've been in presentation mode once, it always opens up in full screen, which in this case is absolutely no problem, because I'm going to be going back into presentation mode anyway, so you guys can see it a bit better. So we hop into presentation mode. Oh, and there it is in the back. But nevertheless, I do want my 2 side panes that I really need and rely on, which is the Explorer view there and the structure view there, because they are, to me, are very important. I pretty much rely on them because the one shows, well, the files. It's well, the name's the deal. You know the Windows Explorer, so this is the Project Explorer. It shows you all the files in your project, especially our C# files. So I don't always have to go back into Unity and open them from there. I can just, if we had more of these here, I could just see them and I could just open them right right from this Explorer view. And the structure view is, I use this a lot because this shows, and I can even have this sorted alphabetically, which I totally want. This shows all the properties, fields, and functions in your class you're currently working in. So if you have this is very short. There's not much to be looking for or anything. But if you have a larger class and there's a lot of methods in there and you're looking for one specific one, you don't have to scroll. You don't have to use Control F to look for it. You just, if you know the name and it's sorted alphabetically, you find it rather easy. Like, I want to go to the update function, which is there, and then you just click on it. And I can't really show this in this very, very tiny class, but it just jumps you. Can I at least show it a bit? Now I can maybe show it with, like, you want to see the movement field up there. To see, you click and you immediately it moves the editor immediately to where that thing's declared. And if you double click, it also activates it and gives it focus, and you have your cursor there, and you can start typing and doing stuff right where you want to be. So this is basically everything we did in the 2 hours of last week. Now, of course not. We answered a lot of questions and we discussed a lot about the basics, and we had we tried out different frame rates and everything. So again, if you missed this, it's all recorded. If you're within the time frame that Twitch keeps VODs, you can still watch it here on Twitch as the VOD. And if the time's passed and Twitch has already moved it away and made space for new VODs, there's permanent recordings of this on YouTube. Maybe you're already watching this on YouTube, I don't know. So then, congrats, just stay here. On YouTube, there's the permanent recordings. I don't want to send feedback right now, thank you. On YouTube, there's the permanent recordings, and they are basically they are there forever. So I have to be really careful about what I'm saying here, because once I've said it here, it's set in stone. It's there forever. It's never going away. It's always for years to watch. So what we did last time is basically the most important line we did was this one, because this is the actual line that changes the position of our game object. Because movement, constant movement, is basically nothing else than the constant changing of the current position. You move your current position a bit to the side, and then again, your now current position, you move it a bit more to the side, and so forth, which results in movement. And this is basically what we're doing here. This is the line that sets the new position. And we just calculated the new position. We did this a bit more verbose. We also saw that all of this can basically be one single line, but having it a bit more verbose like this is a bit more useful for the purpose of this tutorial, because it's a bit more clear what's actually happening. So if you see this and you know the one line you can compress this into, maybe you don't need this particular session of the tutorial, because you already are quite good at this. So yeah, what else? Yes, we calculated the new position, which is super easy. It's the current position, and we just add our speed. And again, we discussed this in excruciating detail last time, so let's not dive into this right now. Because what we want to do is we want our new position to be dependent on player input. So one thing we have to do is we have to see if the player did hit a button or a key on the keyboard. And if he did, then we need to decide what to do with this information. Then we need to calculate our new position depending on which key the player hit. So if we hit the D key, maybe we want not sure exactly which axis that is in the engine. Let me just see. We can the X. Yeah, it's of course it's because some engines flip some of the axes. So I always get confused because I'm constantly hopping between Unity and Unreal. And Unreal has the axis actually a bit differently, like Unity. And Unity does have them a bit more sensible, I have to admit. So yeah, if we hit D, we want this thing to move into this direction. So our value on the x-axis has to become larger. Let me select this. So if we want to move it to there, because we hit D, you can see over here the position value. Almost like I was hearing voices. Don't mind me. The position value, the x gets larger, so we need to add something to x if we press D. On the other hand, if we press A, the whole thing moves to the other side, so we need to subtract from x. And the same goes for the y value. If we had S or W, we have to add or subtract from the y value. Let's do nothing on the z value yet, because well, we could maybe Q and E. Maybe if we have time, and if we like super want it, we can also make it like moving backward and forward using, I don't know, Q and E or something, whatever would make sense. So let me set this back to 0, 0, 0, and also let me get rid of this notification because that's nagging me. I don't like unread notifications in there. I wish I had the same level of cleaning up with my mailbox that still has quite a lot of unread mails for, I don't know, months, years. Maybe some mails are so old you can just delete them instead of read them because, well, they're kind of old. But I did read them. I did read them. I just was like, I'm gonna do something with them. All right, so this is just static. We're just moving stuff. So for now, let's remove this. Not completely. No, let's just remove the new position calculation, because the current position is still very useful to us, because we still need this. Because our movement, of course, is based on our current position. So now, okay, now it complains because new position is likely not... no, not likely. New position is never initialized with a sensible value, which is absolutely right, which is absolutely correct. So maybe, and this is something that already goes again into the best practices, because what we're going to do is we'll be having some if blocks in a bit here, or maybe switch case. What's nice? I think let's do a switch case. Let's see how the functions work, and then we decide on what we're gonna do. So we're gonna be having conditionals here. And it might be that no key was pressed, because we only want to change our position, and we only want to set the new position when one of the keys was pressed to actually do something. Now there's two ways we can handle this. One way, and this would actually performance-wise, this would be the better way maybe, only executing this if a button was actually pressed. But we'll keep this here. This will always be executed. But if no button was pressed, the logical conclusion is we don't move. And if we don't move, our new position equals the old position. So basically, what we're going to be doing is just to make sure that this call always works and will never crash. Well, never say never, but in theory, will never crash, because new position will always have a valid value. We just set new position equals our current position. So at first you might think, okay, well, what the heck? This does not make any sense. It makes sense at second thought, because now we're making sure two things. New position always has a sensible value. So this, you see also the red warning squiggly line is gone. We're super happy now. The code is fine and works. Nothing crashed. Because new position always, no matter what happens next, new position will always have a sensible value, even though we're not doing anything. And the second thing is the new position, the sensible value we put in there is our current position. So if we do nothing, like we're not pushing any keys, we'll just stay there and nothing happens, nothing moves, which is exactly what we want. So this is a neat way to take care of both things, that this value is properly initialized with something sensible, and also we're not moving. We're staying at our very same position. Again, another way would be just not execute this line, but then you would need this line in every conditional where you want to change your position. You have to call this. And so for today, it's a bit more cleaner when we do it. This code will be a bit more readable, but in the end, this is basically the design, the structure of the code you write in the end. So if it's your project you're working on, the decision is on you. Now it's on me, and this is mine. Whatever you decide when you do your project. If you're already on YouTube, tell me in the comments. And if you're watching this right now, live on Twitch, tell me in the chat. So it's easy. So tell me either right now in the chat or right now in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube, and I will see that I see both. Yeah, I will see that. So to get back on topic, what we need to do is now we need to figure out if the player pushed a button, and if so, which one. And for this, we go back into the engine for a moment and go to Edit, and I think it's Project Settings. Yep, you're perfectly right. Not sure how well you can see this. Let me see if I can grab the old magnifying glass for a bit here. So, this is project. So all I did was I went into the menu bar up here, and I went to Edit, and then down to Project Settings, which gave me this window, Project Settings. And there is a category Input Manager. And this is exactly the one we want. This is the one we need. And you see, initially it looked like this, pretty empty. There's not much in here. But here's an axis array. We can open this because you see these arrows that look like a YouTube play button. They tell you, okay, look, here's a list of things, but the list is closed. So you're not seeing the things. So you can click on this little arrow, so it starts pointing down, and now you can see all the things that are in this list. And you can see there's stuff like horizontal, vertical, fire 1, fire 2, jump, blah, 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 blah. All of these entries are in this. I think there's even a cancel one. And these are names by which we can access these axes. We can access them from code. So what we want is for a start, we want horizontal movement. Do we want horizontal movement? Yes, we want horizontal movement. X, back and forth, A and D. So open this, and let me close this magnifier. I think you should hopefully be able to properly read this. So there's again, this is the name. This is the one which is just shown here because you can add your own. You can change the existing ones. You can remove the existing ones, and you can add your own ones, and every combination of this, because you see this is an array, and up here in the first entry, the size entry tells us how many entries are in this array. And currently there's 18. It's all of these. So if you want to add your own, you just set this to, depending on how much you need, 20, 22, 30, whatever. And then you'll be getting additional entries down here, and you can change them. You can edit them to whatever you want, or you can edit the existing one. For now, we'll just be using this, but do know you can change all of this to your heart's content, whatever you want to have them. So this is the name, and this is basically the name we're going to be referring to this from the code a bit later. Then here's a descriptive name. if whatever this is isn't totally clear, you can put a small description in there, but it's totally optional. Descriptive negative name is basically the other way. So descriptive name could be moves the player to the right, and descriptive negative name would be moves the player to the left. Because the negative button also here is left, which I think refers to the cursor keys, which are the ones between your all the character buttons on your keyboard and the number pad. There's a block of, you know the cursor keys. I don't have to, really? No. I think these refer to the cursor keys on the keyboard. So positive button moves it to the left. Negative button moves it to, positive button moves it to the right. Jesus Christ, now you guys got me completely confused. See what you do to me? Positive button moves it to the right, negative button moves it to the left. And this is where descriptive name, descriptive negative name comes into play. Descriptive name could be moves player to the right, and negative name could be, or description could be moves player to the left. So alternate negative button, alternate positive button are pretty much that. Alternate buttons. Like these are the primary buttons, so you can hit left and right on your keyboard to move the player. But you can also, and those are optional, you can leave them empty if you don't want it or need them or have no idea what to put in there. Those are just another button that does the same thing, like A and D, because WASD is basically the way we play most games if we move something from the keyboard. So they got A and D as the alternative buttons, and they do the same. This basically an alias. Like the alternative positive button has the exact same effect like the positive button. And if one of these buttons is pressed, this axis is activated and does stuff and tells us when we ask it if this is pressed. Gravity. Let's read the tooltip quite quickly. Speed in units per second, that the output value falls towards neutral when the device is at rest. So that means in this case, it's digital, because keyboard buttons, they can just be pressed and not pressed. But these things, you have access also for joypads. Do we have one? There's mouse, there's vertical. The chef, we have one. But you also can say, okay, this is like an analog stick, where you have values between 0 and 1, because these axes, they return you values between 0 and 1. No, actually, they give you values between -1 and 1. -1 is, you guessed it, the negative direction, and +1 is all the positive direction. Yeah, exactly that. So, and this is why the player moves right, because if we hit the right key or the D key, this axis will become, or will take on the value of 1. And if we add this to our X value, we move to the right, if we have the camera properly set up. If the camera is on the wrong side, of course, then, but let's not, no. Let's just consider the cameras on the right side, which I think ours is. So if we had hit left or A, this axis becomes -1. So if we add -1 to our X value, or basically subtracting 1, which moves the object to the left. And this is how this left and right movement or horizontal movement comes to be. And the gravity setting is if you let go of the key. The value won't just immediately snap to 0, because 0 means the axis is neutral, nothing is happening. No movement, no keys are pressed. But when you let go of the key, then it won't just immediately snap back to 0. It will gradually, from, depending if it's -0, then it's going a bit up, or if it's -1, it's going up a bit, and if it's +1, it's going down. But it will close back in to 0 over time. And this is the time in units per second that it takes for this axis to go back to 0. So if we hit the key, it jumps to 1 or -1, or depending on the direction. And if we let go of the key, it kind of smoothes out the movement. It slowly goes from 1 to 0.9, 0.8, 0.75, whatever the speed is. It goes back to 0 till it hits 0, and then it stays at 0. And this is the speed which with it does it. And we can't play around with this. We're going to be experimenting with this a bit once we have the code that actually does the movement. So the lower value, just let me spoiler you this, a lower value takes longer, well, because it's slower. So you move, and then you let go of the key, and it slows down because until it comes to a halt. And stay still. And if you give this, but if you want if you want the input to be instant, like you let go of the key, every movement stops. You just set this to an insanely high value. I like to put 9,999 into there, and then it moves so quickly from 1 or -1 back to 0. That's basically within a frame, which for our understanding is instant. So just set this to an insanely high number. But we're going to be playing with this once we've implemented it. The dead area is only of interest if this is an axis that deals with an analog gamepad. Because analog gamepads, they are not like super perfectly calibrated. They are always going to the one side or to the other side. And the dead zone is if an input from the analog stick of a gamepad comes in, the input value of the gamepad has to be higher than this to be considered to be actually moved. So the higher you set this value, the more you can move your analog stick on your gamepad without your player actually moving. However, if you set this too slow and your player has a cheap gamepad or something, even if he's not touching the gamepad at all, the gamepad is sitting on the table, your player in the game might move because the stick is just slightly put to the side, maybe even not noticeable with the bare eye, which gives you a tiny number. But this number is already considered, so your player's moving. So this is the dead zone. It's basically you can imagine this as a circle, a circular area on the analog stick of your gamepad, and as long as your movement of your analog stick is within this area, it's considered to be not moving at all. It's so yeah. I hope this made sense. Again, if this is unclear, if there's any questions left, just slam them in the chat or pop them in the comments or whatever. Sensitivity, speed to move towards the target value for digital devices. This is basically the exact opposite of gravity. So this is if we are at not moving and then we hit the left or the right key to start moving. This is how quickly the value becomes 1. Again, set this insanely high and it's semi-instant at 1. Set this to something very slow and you gradually start moving. This depends on your game. There's games for I've seen or played games where it actually made total sense and only made sense for the game mechanic, so that you gradually start moving, so that you gain up speed or something. Then set this to a low value, and if you want it to be instant, set this to a high value. Again, we're going to be playing around with this in a bit once we've implemented the actual code. What does snap do? If we have input to opposite direction of code. Oh, this is if you hit the left and the right button together. So you're pushing A and D at once on your keyboard. Which direction are we supposed to go? And if snap is enabled, we're actually not moving at all. If it's not enabled, I have no idea what happens. But if it's enabled, then nothing happens. They cancel each other out. Invert just swaps the directions. If you enable invert, then the positive input becomes the negative, and the negative becomes the positive without changing those. You're not actually changing just by ticking this check mark, this box. If we hit the right button now, the negative is actually triggered instead of the positive, and vice versa. This is mostly interesting for the y-axis. Sometimes this is also an option you see quite often in games. Invert axis, invert y-axis, because sometimes some people are used to when they push their controller up for their spaceship to go up. Sometimes they think, nah, when I push up, I want to go down, which is, I think, the actual way that it happens on real like airplanes or something. We don't have real spaceships yet, so I can't talk about airplanes. But in a real airplane, if you're a real pilot in a real plane or something, if you put the yoke forward, which would be up, well, or depending on how you hold your gamepad forward, the thing will actually go down. And if you pull, so basically the down direction on our gamepad, the airplane goes up. Some players are not comfortable with this. They want their spaceship to go up when they put up, and this is when you just invert the axis, and everyone's happy. Type, you can select what this is. Currently it's set to key or mouse button, which is exactly what we want. We want to push keyboard buttons, but you can also say, wait, I want only to track mouse movement with this, or I want joystick axis. Right? Talked about the analog gamepad a lot already. If you want to use that, you set this to joystick axis. Then some of the options will change. There will be different ones, and well, yeah, you can then. Well, because this horizontal axis now only works. Maybe not. I think it already. I think when you set it to key or mouse button, it actually works for everyone, because you still can set the axis you have on the joystick or the gamepad, and you can set for which joystick or gamepad number. So if you have like 12 gamepads connected to your computer, you can say, I want input from the 7th one. Hey, the game terrorist. I hope you're not dropping any bombs here. The only bombs you can drop are sub bombs. Feel free to do that, but welcome. Hi there. So yeah, maybe if you make accesses because you want, if you make a multiplayer game, a local couch co-op multiplayer game, you want separate input from all the connected gamepads, and you can say, yeah, well, this axis, I'm creating the first one or second one or the 16th one, depending on how many you have. So that's the options we have here, and this is our axis name. Of course, the very same thing goes for the vertical, just up and down in S and W. But everything else is pretty much the same. Oh, interestingly, this still says X-axis here. So maybe, yeah, look those exactly. Yeah, the rate rocket. That's a nice emote. I like that quite a lot myself. But I don't have a gamepad connected at the moment, so we can't try this. Maybe we do this next week. Anyways, so these are our axes, these are our axis names, and now we know what they do, how they're configured. You can add your own, you can change them to your heart's content. Those are all yours. And now, once we've set them up, once we're happy, and for the sake of tonight, we're completely happy with the defaults, we can just close this up and hop back into our code. And now all we have to do is oops, that was the wrong window. Let me see. We're gonna be peeking at where's my sneak peek, because I need to check something. Yeah, okay. need to check my clever side notes so I know what I'm gonna have to be typing in here. Because now we want to query those axes. We want to actually see if anything's moving, and I've prepared a little something that I just have to copy paste because we've discussed this before. I'm quite bad at remembering the syntax of stuff, but well, you don't have to. You only have to know where to look it up. But now my chat's gone. Wait, I need to get my chat back. There's my chat back. So, input is something that's I heard a weird that is usually noises that are not good. Oh wait, I still okay, because I still have let me just wait, what was that? I don't want these. No, I don't have my mail. Well, let's see if those noises come back. It's weird. There shouldn't be any notifications right now. Anyways, input is something that's applied to us by the engine. That's engine functionality. Of course, we just need to use it like so many things. This is the reason why every sane person today, every sane person that makes projects in a commercial matter and needs to live off of them or needs to make a profit, so you don't have unlimited time. If you're just doing this as a hobby project or as an educational project for yourself to learn how to do stuff, there's actually much fun in doing things all yourself, not using an engine, just grabbing some random C++ compiler and directly hammering onto the OpenGL or DirectX API. You can do that. It's a lot of fun. But the reason why most people who need to do this for a living use engine is because engines are they supply us just with so many functionality and we can just use them. So we have the input, and actually let me start this from the beginning. So we have our input, and we can the auto completion is here's some sensible auto completion. You see, it offers us quite a lot of functionality. We have get access, get button, get key, get touch if you're on mobile or any other touch-enabled device. And you can use all these to get the player input. Get button just checks if a button is pressed or not. So what we could do is we could just use those if we just want to use our keyboard input. However, the problem with get button is, and this is why I would suggest you to always use get access, because get button or get key, you just give the raw key. You tell it, look, I want the A key on the keyboard, which makes it impossible for you to just change it at will. Because you don't have you can make one, but you have to make this on your own. Either you have to make one or you don't have a central spot where you configure all your buttons. So if, I don't know, somewhere down the road, you don't want it to be A, you want it to be, I don't know, Y or F or G or I don't know, whatever key. You have to go through your code and change it, or have, to write your own central thing where to manage these things. And the engine already has this. It's those axes. Those axes are exactly this. We've just looked at this. It's a central point where we can configure these things. Hey! I've never been nuked so hard. Greetings! My glass goes up to you, and it might look like different things, but trust me, it's just iced tea. And not even one from the not short islands. Yes. You could say this is a short island tea, not a long island tea, because it's actually just plain iced tea. But I think I'd be up for the other iced tea. It's about time that we have chances and situations again to drink the other iced tea together all at once. Oh yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we've just seen the central configuration thingy. So this is why I suggest to you always to use get access, because then if you want to change these things, you can just hop into the project settings and just change them. Also, you can make access work on both. I think. Yeah, should be. You can set up the access to react to keyboard input and joypad input at the same time. So you just query your access that you defined, and then you don't have to care about if the player uses a gamepad or a keyboard. He can use whatever he's more, or she or they or whatever is more comfortable about. So, well, yeah, it just works. And what about mobile? Mobile is a whole separate can of worms, because mobile doesn't have either of them. Mobile, usually, there's special gamer phones that actually have these, but I'd say 99% of all phones that you see out there on the street don't have buttons or analog sticks to control your games. So if you're doing a mobile game, you'll mostly be using touch input. And as we've just seen, we also can do this. Let me go back into the engine here and go back into the project settings. Because didn't we even have some already? Weren't there some predefined? No. But you can also set them to touch input somewhere over the rainbow. We've just I could swear to you we've just seen this. Yeah, maybe I have to take this back. I could have sworn I've seen some options for touch input here just a second ago while we were going through this. But basically, for mobile, you have to work with touch inputs, which is a whole different story. You've seen other frameworks providing a virtual joystick in these cases. Yes, and I hate them. Don't use them. If you're making a new game from scratch, and this comes now from me as a gamer. This comes from me playing games, not as a developer. This comes from me as your potential client. Do not use those overlay virtual joystick things. They suck. They are not, at least to me, they are not fun in using. It's bad already if you port a game that was never meant for my mobile and you port it over and you have to get it working, then yeah, do it. But if you're making a game from scratch and you already know you want to put this on mobile, design the controls of your game so that they natively support the touch input, and that the controls of your game and the UI and everything can directly react to the touch input and design the touch input in a better way that's perfectly suited for your game. Because these virtual, yes, I think Unity even has one. I think Unity does offer this. I think I've seen something like this. Let me just quickly check this. Unity virtual joystick. I think Unity also has a thing like this. How to create mobile joystick in Unity. I think it has it out of, well, okay, this is okay. I was kind of sure it had it out of the box, but there's stuff in the asset store that does this. Yeah, so I could have sworn it has some built-in functionality to this, but yeah, you can do this, but only do it as a last resort. For mobile, it's doing good mobile control is a skill, a very valuable and rare skill. I've seen only so very few mobile games that had a control scheme where it actually was like, yeah, that works. That's nice. That actually does it. Because even we as developers, till today, have no idea how to make good mobile controls. Most of them feel like they should have stayed on the PC or something. Someone who's able to design good mobile control schemes is invaluable. You can't pay this person with money because there's not enough money on your bank account, no matter what company you are, to pay this person, because this is such a valuable and rare skill these days. I hope this will change eventually, but well, we got mobile phones for quite some time now. We do have them for a couple of years now, and still, it's tough. It's really tough. So yeah, that's a whole different can of worms and would go completely beyond the scope of this tutorial and also the scope of me, because I've never done mobile. Well, I've done a few mobile apps in the past, but they weren't games. They were more tools and utilities, so they just had buttons you push and they do stuff. I've never done a mobile game, and I'm not sure that I ever want to. I'd be terrified of the challenges that would be up ahead. It would be an interesting challenge, but no. So let's stick to the PC and mouse and keyboard so far. So I told you why I would tell you why I'd suggest to use get access, because you have a way better way of, and look at that, our clever IDE even knows what access we have defined. But those are not all the 18, right? There's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those are like 12 or something. No, 11. Weird. I don't know. Anyways, we have our horizontal here. And I'm not 100% sure if you can change these access definitions during runtime. I would have to check myself. But it would be pretty sweet if you could... Oh, this is the wrong window. But it would be pretty sweet, because this would also take away a lot of work from you if you could change these definitions programmatically. But I'm not sure. I would have to check this if you guys are interested in this, because the reason for this would be, usually, in the best case, you want to make your control scheme configurable by the player. So you have your default key set, like WASD, and the cursor keys move your thing, and spacebar shoots and whatnot. But ideally, you want to give the player the option to reconfigure this. Maybe the player wants, D, Y, X, and C to move his spaceship around or something. And he would like the right control key for fire and not the space key. So we want to give the player an ability to be able to change these things. And being able to programmatically change the values here would be very, very valuable, because then you can just put whatever the player wants in there and save this as a configuration and just load it back in. And it was fine, but I will have to check up on this if this is possible. If this is something that's of interest to you, if you would like to see, once we've done this and once we have our player controls, if you want to see how to make them configurable, well, we're not building a whole UI, just, well, in theory, how to change the actual definitions, then I can look this up, and then we can cover this here. But yeah, I'd actually have to look this up. I don't know out of my head right now. So for now, we got our horizontal. We got settled on. We want to use access. So we already have one vote. Okay, the game terrorists already would find this quite awesome. So we already have one vote against, no votes against. That's a good quota so far. So we settle on, we always usually want to get the axis. We have our horizontal axis defined, and we said this axis will give us a value between 0 and 1, or now actually between -1 and 1, to tell us in which direction we're supposed to move. So it only gives us the direction we need to move in. We still need our movement speed. And I'm not sure, did we... No, we didn't set a movement speed last time. And also, let's clean up a bit. We can delete those because I only used these to demonstrate how these work. Let's create... Oops. Nope. I want to get out of there. Wow, I don't want to click this more thing. I just want to get at the end of a line to add a new one. So let's add a new field, which will be a flotation value. And this value is quite valuable to us because it's a value, so it's valuable. Okay, no one's laughing. I completely understand this. Cheers. But this value, we're going to be able to set the actual movement speed. Because remember, last week I said hard-coded numbers here. Maybe I could just put a movement speed in here. Like in this line, I just quickly copy-pasted in. Way ahead on the T side. And again, this is just plain, simple, harmless child's iced tea. It's not even the good one. It's the normal one. It's not the island one. But I'm so happy you guys just bear with me and you just you not running away is already perfectly fine. So we're good. We're happy. Oh, look at that. The Devcom bot announcement about the tutorials. I think it should be updated. Because it still talks about Unreal and C++. We're not doing this since, I don't know, 3 or 4 sessions now. We switched to Unity. But we might be switching back to Unreal and C++ eventually. Who knows? Who knows what the future has holds for us. Anyone running away from this doesn't want to learn. Oh, you're so nice. You're so kind. Thank you. Doing a fine job of explaining. Oh, you're so kind. Thank you for your nice words. Very much appreciated. Thank you. So yeah, I could just put a speed like the 10 down here. I could just say, I want to move with speed 10, whatever speed 10 is. But we said last week, we don't want to do this. We don't want to have hard-coded numbers here, because if we want to change the speed, or if our level designer says, dear programmer, this speed is too fast, can you make it slower? Then we have to go into our code and change it. It would be way more convenient if our level designer or whatever designer could just say, I don't like that speed, I want this to be something else. And he could just set it. And this is exactly what these serialized fields things do. So we call this movement speed. Also, I think we can remove this one, because this was our movement vector. This was the direction our object moved last time. We're not using this anymore because now we're making a player controllable. So we're kind of replacing this with movement speed, which just tells us, and we also talked about this in excruciating detail with lots and lots of demonstrations and examples and trying out and testing with low frame rates, high frame rates, why we need this delta time. Because if I put this time delta time, if I now say I want to multiply, this is the direction. So this basically tells us positive or negative. This is our movement speed. So I can put my movement speed that I defined up there. Why is this a function? Okay, because I haven't finished this yet. I haven't finished the line up there. Okay. We multiply this with our movement speed. And again, this is, unless it's in transition where it's lower than 1, it's either 1 or -1. So usually this is just our movement speed if we're actually moving. And then we have this special value, that the engine supplies us, which is time, which is all the time functionality the engine offers us. And there's a very, very, very important, this is one of the most important values you will ever face in developing games, and this is delta time. And it's, in most of the cases, it's called delta time. Sometimes it might be called something else, but it's this. And just a short refresher, this is the time since the last frame. This is the time in seconds since the last frame that was rendered before the current frame that's being processed. So if you're running on 60 frames per second, this is, I think it's 0.016 or 0.013, I'm not exact, something like this, seconds. So it's 13 or 16 milliseconds since the last frame. On a lower frame rate, this number becomes bigger because there's more time that goes by between those frames. On a higher frame rate, this value becomes smaller because there's less time between each and every frame, because there's more frames each second, which basically turns our speed into a per second speed. And this is something we can perfectly work with, because if I give this a default value now of, let's say, 10, then this 10 is 10 units per second. So we already have even a good idea of how fast this thing moves. It moves 10 units each and every second, which for our little cube, our little thing that's like one unit in size, is quite a lot. So I don't know. Let's put this at 0.5 units, because our object here is just 1 unit in size. It's just one unit big, I think. Maybe. Let's try. This is why we make it settable, because if we're not satisfied, let's just set this at the default to 1. One is always a good default, because again, this is why we make this configurable. It's either -1 or 1. Do you inflate vol values with an analog joystick? Yes. With our keyboard input, this the value of this axis is usually -1 or +1. It can be between. It can be like 0.89, 0.7, 0.6 while it transitions, because we had those values here in the axis configuration. And let me just grab the magnifier quick. We had this gravity and this sensitivity value. Those two threes there. There's a value for gravity and a value for sensitivity, which is the transition from 0 to either -1 or 1, or from -1 or 1 back to 0 in units per second. So it doesn't, if you let go of the key, it doesn't immediately snap back to 0, but it gradually becomes closer and closer and closer to 0 until it's finally 0. And the speed with which it does it, that's a mouthful, you can set here. So if you set this at a very low value, it takes some time, and you actually can see how your movement decelerates until coming to a stop. If you set this to a very, very high number, it's basically instant, because if you set this to a high enough number, the moment you let go of the key, the next frame, the value will be 0, because this value is so high. And when you're using an analog axis, when you set this to you want joystick axis, and you set your axis and everything, then yes, if you're using your analog stick on your game on your gamepad, you're actually getting a value between 0 and either negative or +1, which means which is the idea behind those analog sticks. As a player, you can even control the speed with which you want to move. So if you just move the stick a bit, well, you know how it works. I don't have to explain that to you, I think. But yeah, with analog sticks, long story short, with analog sticks, you always can expect maybe a value between 0 and the maximum. And, well, mostly they will just slam that thing to the side and it's still 1. And on the keyboard, you'll mostly have a positive or negative 1, and the transition configured by the value I just showed you. So what we're doing is, there's one more thing that's missing, because this now is just a private field of our C# class. We have to take care about that. This can actually be set from the inspector, from the Unity inspector. So we prefix this with serialized field, which again has been demonstrated and explained a lot last time. So yeah, I can just again point to last time for more explanations on that. This basically just takes care of that. This value will now be settable from the Unity inspector. How we will see this in a moment. So we get our movement speed. This is now the speed, whatever has been set inside Unity by whatever designer is responsible for designing those speeds. Whatever he set there, we have here in our movement speed variable. Since we multiply this by time delta time, it's basically a per second movement. And since we multiply this with our axis value, we also have a direction if we go left or right in this case, because it's the horizontal thingy there, the horizontal axis that we choose. Now you notice this harsh red squiggly line. Also, we can remove this one because it's half gone and we don't need it anyways. Because this is the result of a mathematical multiplication. We can't just have this there. We need to store this value somewhere. And where else then, if it needs to go somewhere, I would say over the rainbow is quite a good place. And if I would be super funny, I would now call my variable over the rainbow. But I'm very, very funny already, because I like to declare private fields with the name of Ryan, because I'm sorry, that's just my humor. I can't do anything about it. I was born with it. It's in my genes. Not jeans as in the trouser jeans, but the genes as in genome. You know what I mean. Remember clean code. Yes, clean code is very, very important. And this is why we give this variable a private. I usually name it private Ryan, and then I rename it to something sensible. But I got my laugh out of it. I got my chuckle out of it, so I'm happy. But yes, clean code, absolutely. Everyone who says we need clean code, I already love you, because yes, that's exactly the mindset you need. And we want clean code, so we give the variable we're going to be putting this value in a sensible name, which is maybe horizontal movement. How about that? Because this is our effective horizontal movement. And as always, every variable we plan on using, we have to declare this first. So yeah, the world's a better one. Let me just drag these a bit to the side so we have more room to actually see all the code. Great. What we can do now is we have our current position. And horizontal movement by definition is the x-axis. So what we can do is we can say our new position equals, and we can create. Oh, wait, we already stored the current position in new position. Oh, we can make this even tidier. Look at this. We can say from the new position, which currently still is our current position, because so far it's just a copy of our current position. Well, there's different ways to do this, and this is, well, yeah, it's down to your personal preference. It's down. I mean, in the end, it's your code. What we could do is we could actually create. You know what? Yeah, let's do this. Let's make a new vector. Again. There's multiple ways. One way we could do it. I could just say new position dot x. Actually plus equals our horizontal movement. And maybe this is the better way because this is neat and short. Let's keep it at this. Another way would have been we actually create a movement vector. Yeah, we could have created a movement vector and then added our movement vector and set the x value of the movement vector to this, and then added the movement vector to current position to get our new position. So there's multiple ways of doing things. And most of those ways are right. But this is nice and short. We can just do it like this. We just take our new position and add to the x value of it our horizontal movement. And like last time, in the end, we just set the position in our transform to our new position, and that's it. So in theory, if I save this and let Unity recompile, in theory, if I didn't miss anything, which is not unlikely, if I run this now, and always takes a while, then we make this big. In theory, by pushing either A or D or the cursor keys, I should be able, oh look at that, I should be able to move the object. Right, left, right, left. I can also do this with A. You have to just to believe me now because you can't see my keyboard. But this is A, this is D, this is left on the cursor keys, and this is right on the cursor keys. And if I hit both at once, it actually completely ignores it. Yeah, okay. So maybe the stuck thing works the other way around. If you do enable it, I don't know. Most fun in programming is pressing F5 and checking the output. Yeah. The output log. It's quite empty at the moment. But yeah, we can already move left and right. But we said, hey, wait, this is kind of slow. This is actually pretty slow. Let's make this a bit faster. And this is why I said, no hard-coded values. As you can see, this is our movement component. This is the one we're currently working in. This, where is it? There. Our script, our class we're currently working in is movement component, because that's what it does. It moves stuff around. So here's our movement component, and look at this. Here's our movement speed. Neat and tidy in the inspector, currently set to 1. Let me get rid of this magnifier quickly. It's this value. This is our movement speed, and we set it to serialized field, so the Unity inspector knows about it, and we can just set it. And here it is. Here's our movement speed, and we can now easily set this to, I don't know, let's set this to 5. And let me set this to maximize on play, actually. And let's run this. And you see, that thing, it moves insanely fast all of a sudden. Left and right. And now I promised you we're going to be playing around a bit with those gravity and the other value. So let me go back into project settings, input manager. And here's the gravity. Let's set this to, let's set this to 1, and also the sensitivity, let's set those to 1. We should have way more acceleration and deceleration now in our movement, at least if the tooltips are right. So I think you can see this. I think you can see this. The acceleration is not that noticeable, but look at when I let go. I mean, this is my other hand, so I can prove you I'm not holding, and also my feet are under the table. I'm not pressing any any keyboard keys like with my feet or something just to cheat you. So this is one of my hand, and now I'm pushing on the other one, and now I let go. And you can see how long that thing took to actually slow down. And it was actually a smooth deceleration till this thing came to a stop. It's very, very noticeable, especially on the deceleration. It's also noticeable on the acceleration, but especially when that thing comes back to a halt. It's very, very noticeable. So let's say we don't want this. Let's say we want like super precise and super snappy controls. So let this set to 9999 and also this 9999. Quite high number. This should be pretty instant. So let's run this again. And I think I don't even have to show you my hands, but you can see if that thing stops, it now immediately stops. And this is the nice and visual representation or demonstration that shows you in a fraction of a second what I tried to explain you in like half an hour. It immediately stops. It immediately starts at full speed, and it immediately comes to a stop, which, like if you're doing a space shooter or something, is perfect, because this is super snappy and super responsive controls. You have no tearing and I don't know, this inertia thing. I always didn't like that. So yeah, here we go. That's that. So what's now missing is we also want to move up and down, which since we have this now, should be very easy. It's so easy, we can just duplicate this and call this a vertical movement, and of course also declare this the lazy way. And this is the vertical. Why is this? Oh yeah, okay. I was about to ask why is this yellow, but it's not anymore. So now the vertical movement is our vertical axis multiplied by our movement per second, basically. And vertical was the y-axis. So just duplicate this. And now we set the y-axis and we set it to our vertical movement. Or well, not we set it to, but we add our vertical movement value on top of whatever the current y-axis of the new position is. Save this, go back to Unity, let it recompile. Run this, and I hope we're amazed. Look at that. We can, we still need to fine tune this because it's still easing in and easing out. While left and right, it's still like super fine. Let's do this because I like the snappy and responsive controls and not the sluggish ones. So let's go to project settings, our vertical axis, and set this to 9999999. You remember? You guys played Portal 2? I'm pretty sure you played Portal 2. The second time Chell wakes up right before Wheatley comes, right at the beginning, at the intro, right before Wheatley comes into her room the first time, where the announcer said, "You were sleeping for 999999999," and eventually he just crashes because of time you've slept overflow or something. I always have to think about this. I've played Portal 2 way too much. Every time I type these numbers in, it immediately triggers this scene in my head. Because, yes, I have played Portal 2 maybe once or twice too much. But I regret nothing. It was a lot of fun. So let me see. Up, snappy. Down, snappy. Wonderful. Up and down. Left and right. And right and up at the same time, and left and down at the same time, and up and left. And look at that. We can bounce around like a little pong ball. Can we bounce and dance around? And you know what? Because it's just done in a few seconds, let's do the Z-axis as well. But I don't think we have an axis for this yet. Project settings. Sounds a bit like Frühstücksfernsehen. Yeah, up and down and up. There wasn't there in the 90s or something? Wasn't there a pop song where it went up and down and out? I don't know, something like that. Yeah. This is your Morgengymnastik. Yeah. Exactly. So we have horizontal, we have vertical. What do we call the other one? This is horizontal. This is vertical. And then we need another axis. So we need 19. And we call this, if this is horizontal and this is vertical, what's this? Depthical. Yeah, okay, let's call this depthical, because they are all ending tel. Oh, sorry. Horizontal. Oh, vertical. So this is depthy. Yeah, I think depthical sounds better than depthical. Yeah, this is cool because they are all ending with this L thing. So let's keep this. So this is depthical. Descriptive name is this is where it goes deep. And a negative descriptive name. I don't know. Be positive. I think be positive is a good negative description, or? Yeah. If someone's negative, I tell them be positive. And that's cool. So the negative button. And now I have to see. Now I first have to. Can I click around here? What? Yes, I can. Wonderful. If I move this, so what's positive and what's negative? We want positive to be, what's positive in the first place? Positive is this way. Positive is this way. So let's make this Q. And first of all, let this set this back to the center. So, we set the positive button to Q. We set the negative button to E. We don't have alternative buttons because I have no idea what those could be. The gravity is 9999. And again, portal 2. Do we want it to snap? I don't know. The other one snapped, right? Those were snapped. Yes. So let these snap as well. It's a key or mouse button. Perfectly right. So this basically, and let me copy paste this because I'm going to totally forget this name. Let's close this up. Let's go back into our code. Duplicate all this and make this our depthical movement. So also we have one here. Now that we have the variable, we can just use the auto completion. This is our depthical axis, movement speed, delta time. The name is not defined in the input manager. I don't know. I mean, we just defined it. Maybe my IDE just doesn't know it yet. But I'm pretty sure here it is. It's totally, and there's no like save function here. Hey, Dadler! Greetings! A wonderful evening to you. Yeah, maybe my IDE just doesn't know about it yet. So, what did I just do? Oh, I hope I didn't destroy something. So this is movement Z-axis, and this is this one. Save, let it recompile. Maybe we can now freely move in all 3 dimensions. Oh yeah, look at that. Backward, forward, upwards, leftwards. No, rightwards. Sorry. Now leftwards, downwards. And now let's do the total fancy thing. Let's go up and right and forward and down. Let it bump a bit so we can actually see it, and back to the right, and let it up and down, and come back. You're a good boy. See? Here it goes. Here it goes. Okay, cool. Now we can actually move freely. In all of them 3 dimensions, we can actually have a very, very close look at this modern art object that we've built in the beginning and we've used therefore. So, great. And we also have some time left. That's amazing. Because now, let's add another axis. Let's add fire! You get the reference. Let's add the fire axis. Oh boy, that was not good for my throat. My throat did not like that. So now we want to make this thing shoot even tinier spheres like this one. So let's create another sphere. And let's actually make this very, very tiny. Why is this? I wonder why these are so big. We didn't scale them. How did I get them smaller without scaling them? Oh, because they are scaled. But this is not scaled. I'm completely lost. I have no idea what I'm doing here. Why? Oh no, because it's not. Because it is actually, they are actually the same size. They just look different because this one was so much closer to the camera. Okay, maybe I do know what I'm doing. So let's make this quite small. Okay, let's move this back to 0 so we have an actual good comparison. Comparison fort. That's a meme. Yeah, perspective much exactly. Confused by the perspective. So let's this is also a nice thingy. You have this coordinate grid here, and if I want to perfectly align my editor view to one of these axes, I could move my view around until it looks like it's perfectly lined up. But what I also could do, I can just click on these things. I can just click on this and, well, it moved a bit much, so I click on it again. And you can actually move in, and it snaps to perfect 90-degree angles. And you can move around your view, snapping to perfect 90-degree angles. So now my view is perfectly aligned with those 2 axes. And so this gives me an idea how large this thing is, of the size of this thing in comparison fort with this one. So let's see, because this should be as a projectile. I'm not perfectly sure if 0.1 is maybe too small. It's quite small. It's quite small. Let's make this 0.2 maybe. There was a shortcut. You could do something that when you set one of those values, the others change as well. I forgot what that was. Okay, this should be okay. If we just fire enough of those, we should be able to see them. Also, we can move closer to the camera. So that's perfectly fine. Also, because we want this thing to be a bit more interesting, not just a sphere. Let's give this something like trail, like a rocket, the rocket trail or something. So let me pick another capsule. Okay. Move this to somewhere where I have a good idea of the actual size, and let's put this to 0.2, 0.2, 0.2, which is, no, this needs to be a bit smaller. I don't want this to be the same size as our sphere, and I think I have to move in here now because they are so small, I can barely see them in the editor. Jesus. So first, let's put this to, I don't know, some sensible value like 2, 1, and 0. So this goes to 2. Oh no, wait, this is the rotation. This goes to 2, 1, and 0 as well, and then we move there. And where's our capsule? There. Fine. Also, let's make it a bit bigger in the y-axis. Let's make this like 0.3. And then move this down like so. Oh, this looks also this. Okay, we're shooting microphones. Okay, this is neat. We're gonna be shooting microphones. Yeah, that we can do. We totally can shoot microphones. Yeah, looks like it. Or PlayStation Move control. Oh, we're shooting PlayStation Move controllers. Yeah, that's neat. That's neat. I know. Where do I want this? Do I want it like so? Yeah, that looks good, right? This looks like exhaust, rocket exhaust coming out of there and then flaming around and then tapering off there. Attack of the Mutant Microphones. Yeah, that could be a game. We could be making a game out of this. Wait a second. Need to scratch my leg. Oh, that felt good. I promise you, it was only my leg. Because why I do this, and also we need to, well, this is our sphere, and we need to put the capsule as a child of the sphere. So now when the sphere moves, our capsule moves as well. Please mark the stream as mature content. No, there's no mature content. There's no maturity. Trust me. I'm the most immature person that should be mature as there is. I'm coming as immature as they come. I never lost my inner child. I actually still am my inner child. There's for my whole life I completely denied growing up mentally because that's boring. Where'd the fun in that? Where'd be the fun in that? So, because we wanted to talk about prefabs. First of all, what's a prefab? I do not really know where the name prefab comes from. But it would make sense if the name prefab would come from pre-fabricated. Pre as in previous, before, and fabricated as in, well, yeah, we fabricated something. Hell, the message for real. Oh my god. But yeah, this is actually yeah, let's not do this. Let's actually keep this channel family friendly. So even though I like you, let's not have that comment in the chat because let's actually keep this family friendly. Where was I? See, you completely made me lose my what's the rote Faden called in English? My red Faden. Prefabricated. Because it's all good. It's all good. Just if you pretend it didn't happen, I will pretend it didn't happen. So we're fine. It's all good. No harm done. It's all good. If we want, we have two problems. Consider I want to use this as my projectile now, which I totally want. I do want to use this as my projectile. Consider two things. If I actually use this object that's in the scene, if I want to use this as my projectile, and you know when I shoot, when I hit the shoot button, this thing is supposed to start here. Confused as usual. Cyborg Wolf, hi there. Greetings. I hope you're well and good. So this is supposed to start here and then move its way up. So one problem is if I actually want to use this thing, or if I would have to store my projectiles somewhere in the scene, I would have to keep this somewhere out here, which is really over the rainbow. Hey, Matrix! The Denglisch ist der Hammer. Yeah, in that case, I would say, I grüß you. I grüß you very, very viel. Hallo sehr. Greetings go out. I hope I don't Denglish too much. There actually was a time where people thought I was Canadian when I was speaking English. They didn't really get the idea I was German. I think I have to work on my English again. I really think back to the times when I was talking English, people were thinking I was Canadian or something. That was cool. Guy came up to me. I was working as a service person in a 24-hour internet cafe on the service desk, and a person came up to me and kindly asked if I would be able to speak English, and I didn't say much. I just said, yeah, I can try. And he looked with big eyes and, oh, you're Canadian. I was, wow, I wish, but no. Yeah, those were the times. I need to work. I would love to have a British accent, but this is insanely. I tried this. I tried to emulate British English to bring my English to sound. I completely failed. I don't know. It's insanely hard. I don't know. So, yeah. I would need to keep this somewhere out of the view of the camera and hoping that the camera will never see this. Maybe if I'd have a level with a background or a floor ground or whatever, I could keep this below the floor. And then when I want to shoot, I could move this in. I could set the position of this thing. So, whatever, that's not working now. I could set the position of this thing. Of this flying microphone. It really looks like a microphone. I would need to set the position of this thing so it's on top of my player object, and then I can start moving. This is one of the issues, because this is not really nice. This is kind of it's not nice. It's inconvenient and has a lot of problems. The second problem. I could also enable disable. I could do that. But exactly. You exactly hit the head on the nail. The nail on its head. You hit the head with a nail. You know what I mean? you bullseye. Exactly. I mean, this is something we could basically live with. We could say, yeah, come on, this is a bit inconvenient, but we make sure nobody sees it because, yeah, we can still always disable it, and it's perfectly fine. But exactly what Game Terrorist just said, what if I need many? What if I want a player to be able to just spam his projectiles and shoot all those aliens away and have more than one projectile on screen at once? I would actually have to store like a crap load of those somewhere on the side, and then I'd have to manage them. Like, okay, there's like 3 of them I've already used, so now I have to use the 4th one. Holy cow! That is something we do not want. So there's a very, very neat way to handle this, and this is where our prefabs come into play. So there's 2 things we do first. We give these things sensible names. So this is our player projectile. And this is our projectile trail. Because why not? And then we create another folder in our assets folder that we call prefabricated things. We might also, because A, there's a typing mistake in there, and B, this is quite long. We could also just call this prefabs. Bam. So, and now the big question. First of all, because that's how I like it, let's move this to 0, 0, 0. Yeah, a bit of OCD can't hurt. We're going to be deleting this in a moment anyways. So how do I make a prefab out of my current player projectile? And I tell you, this is the most complicated part of all, because you have to select this, you have to hold your mouse button while you have it selected, and then you drag it down in your prefabs folder. That also, it doesn't have to be, this is not magic done because of the folder is called prefabs. You could call the folder Schnitzelsalat, or I don't know, whatever you want. Hans-Peter Host. It doesn't matter what the folder is called. You can also just drag it directly in the assets folder. But as with clean code, we want a clean file structure, so we don't do that. That's why we made the prefabs folder. And while you're holding this drag down thing on the prefabs folder, you just let go. It's like always in life. Just let go. And you can see the icon changes, the color changes, everything changes. Just war. War never changes. And all of a sudden in our prefabs folder that was previously empty, there is now a player projectile. And now we can delete this from our scene. Boom, it's gone. It's actually nowhere anymore, but it's sitting in our prefabs folder. And this is it. This is our prefabs. So prefabs are basically a fabrication of game objects. They also can have components, and well, it actually has components. It has all those render components, and it can have components and whatnot, whatever you want. And then you just drag it down here, and this is our game object with all the child objects. There is I think we need to drag it in here, and then you have this. I'm not sure how well you can see this. If you have the prefab, also you can see the child objects of the prefab. And if you have one instance of your prefab in the scene, you have this little arrow-like thingy here that all the others don't have. If you click this, you change into the prefab editor, and now you're just editing the prefab. All you do now, you're doing. Wait, let me get rid of this. All you're doing now, while in the prefab editing mode, where in the hierarchy you only see your prefab related game objects, sub objects, childs, whatever, everything that's in there. What you're doing now is you're editing the contents of this prefab. You're not editing properties of an instance, you're actually editing your prefab. So this is how you edit and change your prefabs once you've created them. Super easy. Nothing to be afraid of. And if you want to go back into your scene editing, you also have this little arrow thingy here. Just click there and you're back in scene editing. Just note that everything you do now on the prefab that's in your scene, on this blue thing, if you're not in prefab edit mode, everything you do now on here, like adding additional components, moving stuff around, or things like that, you're doing them as overrides on the instance. So you can't change your prefab that's in the scene without actually changing the actual prefab. Because Unity manages those separately. Those are called overrides. You can override things in the scene on your prefab and have it do other things, give it other values, without the actual prefab being changed. So you can keep this in its original state, which is quite useful and used a lot. And if you want to actually edit the contents of this prefab, you just hit this little arrow and then you'll be here. And you can, whatever you do now, you actually do to the contents of whatever you, this thing down here. Now, maybe by accident, you did something in the scene that you actually wanted to apply to do on the actual prefab, because you want all the prefabs that wherever you use them to have this change. They are not lost. You don't have to delete them and redo them on the original prefab. You have this overrides menu here. I'm not sure whether you can see this. And there is Champ AM66. A wonderful evening. Hi. Considered you're in at least a similar, I would have almost said timeline, time zone. So yeah, you have this overrides thing, and currently we don't have any overrides. But if you changed something on your prefab in the scene, like you changed values of a component, or you added components or whatever, those are called overrides because they are only in the scene and not on the your actual prefab objects. But here in the list of overrides, you will see all the things you changed in the scene that are now different than in your original prefab. And then you will have two options here. Currently, we don't have any overrides, so I can't show you. Maybe we get to a point where we do have some overrides. If you do have overrides, you have two options. You have revert all and apply all. Revert all removes everything you did in the scene and brings the prefab back to its original state, like you have it saved here. And if you say apply all, it takes all the changes you made to your prefab in the scene, and it migrates them into your actual prefab. So now they are as if you have built the prefab from the beginning like this, and nothing's done in the scene anymore. I hope this makes sense. Again, if anything's unclear, just slap them in the chat, and we're going to be talking about this. Because we're slightly running out of time for today, so we have to move forward. Because what good is a prefab that's just sitting here in our assets folder and it's just there? I mean, it makes, again, for the same reason, it makes no sense if I now drag this in here and say, yeah, cool, I can now drag this a million times in here and have a million projectiles that my player can then use, because I would have the same problem as if I would have just put them in the scene in the first place. So let's remove them again. And the beauty at prefabs, and this is usually how they are used, there's other use cases, but one of the most common use cases is you instantiate them, you spawn them via code. And let's do this as a last example. And actually, yeah, we have to spawn it, of course, with when we hit the fire axis. But we're just gonna be spawning it today. I'm not sure if we actually get it to moving. We know how to make movement code, so maybe I will just make the movement code somewhere while I'm offline during the next week till the next tutorial. Because we now know how to make movement code, because we've done a lot of movement code the last 2 days now. Last time we made something move on its own. Today we made something move based on player input. So let's take this for granted. We know how movement works. So for now we're just going to be spawning those projectiles. We're not going to be moving them yet, because again we're running out of time a bit, because I have a follow-up meeting after this, so I can't make too much overtime today. Usually I don't have problems with overtime and making the stream longer than we already planned, but today this is a bit difficult. So let's make another function method down here, which is a private void fire projectile. And this again, and let me see, where's my, oops, wrong window. I need to see if I missed anything in chat. No, I didn't. Okay, cool. Spawning a projectile or instantiating a projectile is very, very easy because, well, we do have a handy instantiate function. There it is. I just type ins and my autocompletion already asks me, oh, you want to write a letter? You need any help with that? No, I don't want to write a letter. I want to instantiate a prefab. So there we go. I just call the instantiate function. And all I do is I know, well, there's a lot of options. There's a lot of things we can do. We can actually already, oh, look at that. Oh wait, this is, let me see, what, can I move up and down? No, I can't. Because there is one. Okay, now my IDE has gone haywire with tooltips and autocompletion. Let me try that again. Because there is one where you can give a parent transform. I'm not sure if you want that. Not exactly sure. This might not be what we want. No, let's just keep this at instantiate. And what instantiate takes is a reference, well, to a prefab that it is supposed to instantiate, to spawn. How do we get this reference? We cannot, or we should not, maybe technically there's a way, but we should not what? Directly address an asset file from our code. These hard-coded things, we've talked about this countless times now, not good. So how do we get a reference to a prefab? Very, very easy. We go up here where we have our fields and we just create another serialized field that will hold a reference to a game object. And that game object can be a prefab. So we say private, and this is of type game object. All right, this movement speed is a float value. And whatever's been put in here has to be a game object. And this is our player projectile. And we set this by default to null to prevent a warning from Unity, because if we don't do this, let me just show you. Let's make this a serialized field. And let's comment this out for a second to not trigger any compiler errors. And if I save this, and once Unity has recompiled this, it should complain, but it doesn't. Okay. Usually it complains that this value, this serialized field, it doesn't have a default value. And it doesn't like this. So it throws us a compiler warning. So the fix for that is just to deliberately set it to null. So now it has a fixed default value, even if that's pretty empty. But however, this is our player projectile. And since we're at it, we can see Dominic. Greetings. Hi there. Oh, now it's complaining. Now it's complaining. Oh, because it's assigned but never used. Yeah, we'll be fixing this because we'll be using this in a second. But you can see here's our player projectile field already. Here's our movement speed that we set to 5. And here's our player projectile field. That currently has nothing, but it wants a game object. And what I can do is I can just drag my prefab from my prefabs folder. And I can just drag this in here and drop it. And there it is. Now I have set a reference to my projectile prefab down here for this field, player projectile. It's fitting in there perfectly. Unity is happy, so we are happy. So what I can do now is I can access this field, player projectile, to get a reference to the prefab the game designer has set in the Unity inspector. And this is basically all we need. All we need to do is instantiate player projectile. Bam. And that's it. Now, if we do this now, of course there's something missing. Because if we do this now, let's just quickly save. Oh, we haven't put in a trigger yet. Let's see, we can in the update. Let me see how is the fire axis defined. Let me just quickly check if we have fire 1, which is left control. Now I like spacebar. Do we have a spacebar? No, left shift. Oh, okay. Let's use the left control. That's okay for now. Yeah, well, it's also an axis. So we have to check if it's non-zero. If this is not 0, the key has been pressed and we want to fire. This is pretty easy. So let me copy paste this one. So we can say if, and if it is, then we do this. But what is? If from the input axis, fire 1, the value is not 0, because when it's 0, nothing's pushed, nothing's pressed. So what's the complaining? Equality comparison of floating point numbers, possible loss of precision while rounding. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. But I can fix this by just making this float. No, I can't. Well, it's for demonstration purpose, and because we're kind of running out of time, let's just live with this. So we query our input axis fire 1 if it's not 0, because if it's 0, the button is not pressed. If it's anything but 0, the button is pressed, and we want to instantiate the player profile. Projectile, sorry. So we just call the player projectile up here in our update function. This should now give us some result. The question is, what kind of result? Oh, control there. Oh, see there. I hit the control key. Let me try this again. Let me stop this and restart this. I move away, and if I hit the control key, bam! Where previously there was no object, now there's my projectile. And if I hit the control key again and again and again, it seems like nothing happens, but look at that. Look at that. Look at this. Let me restart this and not maximize on play. You can see in our scene hierarchy, there's not much going on there. I have no idea why all of a sudden it already spawned a few of these, but well. But you can see, here's our clones of our projectile, because we spawn them, we put them into the scene, and if I hit control now, you see there's lots of them. And it's getting more and more and more. This is another problem, but we're going to be tackling this next week. First of all, let's get them somehow working at all. And since we know how to do this, I think we can quickly still add this till this actually looks a bit more like a projectile. But there's more missing. But we can already see we're spawning them. We're already adding instances, and I can also move them around. See, here's one, and here's another one. So there's a lot of instances, a lot of our player projectiles are already spawned, which is great. This is exactly what we wanted. But they are just sitting there, and they're sitting at the wrong place, because if you shoot, your projectile doesn't start somewhere back there. It starts where you are. So we need to have this instantiate gives us something back if we want, and if we care about that. And of course we care about that. The instantiate function, once it has instantiated and spawned our prefab, it gives us back a reference, a direct reference to the game object that has been put into the scene. so we can do stuff with it. So we need a variable of type GameObject. And let's call this new projectile, or spawn. Let's call this spawned projectile. Spawned projectile. That's a good name. And we can just save the reference that instantiate gives us back in spawn projectile. And what we can do now is we can set the transform. We can set the transform of the spawn projectile. Or to be more precise, we can set the position of the spawn projectile. We can set this to the transform position of our player game object. The game object, this component, this class is currently sitting on top of. So we can set the transform position of the spawn projectile to our own. But also, another thing I'd like to do, I would like to move it a bit more up, because our zero coordinate of our player, the zero coordinate of our player object is down here in the cube. But the projectile is supposed to come out of here, out of this, out of the capsule. So I just move it up a bit, like, I don't know, let's try 2.5, because I think the sphere is at 2, yeah, because the sphere is at 1, the capsule is at 1, so the capsule basically is 2 units up from the cube, and we want to spawn the projectile a bit more on top, so let's say 2.5. Let's try to move it up by 2.5 on the y-axis, which we already know how to do, because we've done this plenty of times by now. So projectile transform position y plus equals 2.5. And why is it yelling at me in red? Property position access returns temporary value. Cannot modify struct member when... Oh, okay, this is inconvenient. Just quickly thinking of a neat way of doing this. I know how we do this. We don't set the transform position of the spawn projectile just to transform position. But instead of that, we're creating a new vector 3. And we can give this vector 3 the 3 values the vector is supposed to have. Which is the transform position x, and let me make this so it's a bit more readable and doesn't scroll out. Let me put this underneath each other. So it's basically x, y, and z, and this comma is too much. And yeah, it yells at me because I'm repeatedly accessing transform position. And it wants me to do something like we did up here, that we kind of remember, we cache the transform position in a local variable and then use the local variable to access this. We've talked about this in detail last time. Since this is only for demonstration purpose, we're just gonna be living with this now. But ideally, you would save this value. The position vector into a local variable, you change this and then you set it back like we did here, like we did last time. If you want to know more about this, how you do it, and more why we do this, just rewind back to last week where we talked about this. So for now, since this is only for demonstration purpose, this is okay. This is not okay for production code. This is only okay for demonstration purpose code. And now we can just add our 2.5 floats on top of the y-axis. And this should give us a way more sensible result. Did we... I have maximized on play? Oh yeah, sometimes Unity takes some time. So now I can move around. And look at that. I can leave projectiles all over the place. I can move wherever I want. I can even move backwards. Oh, this is like an etch and sketch. I could basically make something like an etch and sketch, and I can move here and there and there, and then we move up. This is kind of like a 3-dimensional etch a sketch. Remember these things? Yeah. This is cool. So now the projectiles. Let me see if I can get our little thingy back here. So now the projectiles, they spawn where they are supposed to spawn. They spawn at the what's that? The nozzle position or whatever. They spawn at where the gun of our modern art spaceship is. So one last thing. So this looks at least a bit more, even more sensible, and all the rest we're going to be tackling next week, which is cooldown and how to get rid of them again, because there's lots of them, and that's something we're going to be tackling next week. But let's make them move. So let's create another script, since we know how to make things move. This is quite easy now. So let's make a new script and let's call this player projectile controller. Let's open it up in our IDE. Do we need a start function? I don't think we need a start function at all. We also don't need this comment. We do need a serialize. We do need a serialize field. That's a float value, which is projectile speed, and we set this to, I don't know, 10 units per second by default. This is the beauty of these serialized fields, because we can change if we are not happy with this value, we can just change it from the inspector. And also we're just going to be putting, instead of let's make it a bit more clean. Let's actually, again, let's make a move function. And because I'm like super lazy, let's copy paste all of this over there, only with a few things to change, because we don't want this to be moved by the player. We again want this to be constant movement, and we want it to be vertical, so we can get rid of the horizontal and the depthical, and we can also get rid of the X and Z. And the vertical move, and also of those unused variables. See, this is when you have a good IDE, it just turns gray because it's not used, and you know, all the 50 shades of gray you can just throw away. Wow, it even rhymes. So we multiply this by our projectile speed, and we're not querying any axis, which just gives us the direction we always want to go up. So our vertical movement is our projectile speed, again, times time delta time. And then we just add our vertical movement onto the current X position, and that should be it. Now we call our move function actually in the update function. Go back here. And this is another thing with the prefabs. Here's my prefab. And here's my player projectile controller. I want this to be on that, which is exactly the same like dragging a component or a script on an object that's in the scene. I can just drag my player projectile controller either directly onto the projectile, but then it puts it down below as the last one, and I want easy access to it too, so I intentionally drag it to the top, which is right under the transform, let go. And now I have my player projectile controller on my prefab. But that means, since it's on my prefab, every instance of this prefab that's spawned will also have this component, because it's spawned like it's in here. So in theory, our projectiles should now even actually like shooting. Look at that. Look at that, how we can shoot. Oh, isn't that fun? how we can make these things go. That's nice. I like it. It's like a little string of things. But you already see one of the problems we have. Right now, there's one projectile per frame. Because every frame, we check if the control key is pressed, and if it is, we spawn a projectile. So, for as long as I hold the control key, every frame, a new instance of our prefab is instantiated or spawned and put into the scene. Which is maybe not what you want. Maybe you want your shots a bit more time between them, so you can actually see each and every shot, because no game actually does it like that. And another problem that we don't see right now, but if I do this for long enough, my game will start to lag horribly. Because it already starts. See how it's starting to stutter? And there's a good reason for this. Because look at that. The projectile, it spawns, it moves, and eventually it moves out of my view. And it's gone. Only that it's not really gone. Let me demaximize this. They are all still there. These objects still exist. And even more so, they are still moving. They not only all still exist, they are also still executing their movement code. So there's still a lot of performance used up by these things actually doing their thing. So, and here comes the cliffhanger into next week. Because next week, the first thing we're going to be do is tackling those two issues. We're going to be seeing that, oh, look at that, I can even shoot with a mouse button. Yeah, this is because, the alternative things in the axis setting. If we move the camera, see, there you can barely see them. If I shoot a lot down here, you can see while the projectiles actually do leave the camera view here, they keep existing, and they keep moving and moving and moving into infinity, and it's getting more and more and more, and eventually a game will really start lagging because we have thousands, tens of thousands of objects that still are moving and still are eating up performance. So yeah, the first thing we're going to be tackling next week is putting a cooldown into this. So you can't shoot them every frame, but maybe one projectile a second or something, which is easier than you might think, or maybe you actually think how easy it is. And the second thing we do, which is maybe even more important and not that obvious. It's quite easy once you know how it's done, but it's not so super obvious if you haven't done it so far, because we'll be taking care of getting rid of these things again. Because you don't want to have these hanging around there. We want to be getting rid of them again. And there's two ways of doing this, and I'll be showing you a really neat way of doing this. So, this is the cliffhanger for next week. Putting in the cooldown for these shots, so we only have 1 a second, and actually taking care of getting rid of projectiles that actually have no use anymore because they are out of the playfield. You don't see them anymore. So we can despawn or destroy them. That's what we're going to be doing next week here on Devcom Tutorials. For this week, my friends, thanks a lot for being here with me. I raise my glass to you, my friends. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you for all the questions you asked in the chat. And hope to see you next week. Yeah, let's do that. Let's see each other again next week, 4 p.m. Central European Time on the Devcom Twitch channel. And let's do all the neat things I just teased for you. So, enjoy your remaining Thursday. There's only one day between us and the weekend. So Friday is basically almost weekend. And yeah, so that's basically the world's good already. Enjoy your weekend and stay safe. See you around. Bye-bye. Take care.